As we get started into this weekend, hold on one sec. Let me push this up just a little bit. Um, so as we get started on this weekend update, this live, I should say, and we all get to spend some time together here. I first want to thank everybody for tuning in. It's really an honor and a privilege to see each and every one of you on a daily basis. Yesterday, my content did get a little bit of shadow ban, um, but it was nice to still see 120 to 170 people between the two lives. Um, Even though it shut us off at one point yesterday. But I appreciate everybody who makes the effort to tune in. I've realized too more, the views don't really matter. I've noticed it's about the quantity or the quality of the people that find that content. And sometimes it's hitting harder with less views, like the kind of back and forth I'm having, which is kind of interesting. It's almost like the less people there is, we can have a closer and refined moment. But we just haven't got those chances on YouTube lately because there's 45,000 people now on this channel. But I do thank everybody who's trying to stay in tune. This is a very difficult market to watch. It's an even harder market to predict. But if you can separate the micro movements from the macro elements, you can start to divide, hey, over time, this market looks great, but in the micro, we've got some issues to deal with. And that's what we're dealing with the last several days. And we'll talk about the very important levels here, like the truly important levels that'll separate us from having a further push down, and what would need to happen to allow us to springboard up instead of dropping down to this next layer. In the last couple of days, especially yesterday, we started to talk more about the fact that if we lose this layer, this is where you get that quick slip. And I know we've already dropped like 20% from where we were at just a couple of days ago, but this is where you literally could cut that and make that a movement that ends up being from a micro loss to a more significant and substantial feel. This is also why where we're at right now, how we're consolidating just in this area, even if we didn't fall any farther. This is why I preach sometimes the point of it's better to be liquid when your portfolio stays whole, even if it goes up on you in a moment of uncertainty, especially if you're on the right exchange, because it's easier to buy back in with a few less shares or a few less tokens, or even add a little bit of money to even out what you were going to do before. It's a lot harder to replace that after a 20% loss. So like if you had 10 grand, you're down like 2 grand in the last day and a half. And that's a lot harder to replace. You figure $2,000 of man hours, you know, that takes a little bit of money, a little bit of time, and a little bit of effort to replace. You know, and once it's gone, it's gone. Until the market reverses back up, even if you buy it lower, or if you bought in and it drops 15, 20, you got to wait for a 15 to 20% turnaround just to get back to even and start cooking. So that's what I'm trying to help this audience navigate through. Now, I'm going to need your help here the next couple of days. I got, you know, some stuff sent to me from YouTube, so I'm not going to have my content pushed around very good the next few days, as you can imagine, after they shut mine down yesterday. So if you could do me the benefit of hitting that share button, I would greatly appreciate it this morning. That's one thing we're going to notice a difference here for a few days. They're not going to push my content, and that's going to be noticeable when you start to see who's in here and the lack of people that are in here. So just consider that when you're watching my content. Also, when I have a bearish title, it won't get the oomph, but there's going to be a lot of people that are missing from in here. So please share this on your social media, share this on your page, because I got a notice yesterday. So yeah, but I'm here. We're still here. It doesn't mean I'm not going to be here. YouTube can try to do whatever they're going to do and send me all these warnings and all this crap. I don't really care. I'm just going to keep doing what I do. So good morning, everybody. I appreciate everybody who's tuning in. And think of it this way. We can have a more confined and a more targeted analysis between us, because there's going to be less of us. At least in the short term. Usually when people start talking, then the algorithm opens up and things like that. So it's hard to shadow ban this community, because no matter what, 100 people are going to find their way here during the live at some point. And then it opens it up, because then YouTube doesn't want to lose out on advertising revenue. Shane, welcome in, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for your first month with the emoji badge and me being abducted by aliens. Jesse, good morning, and thank you also for being in Tom's Army for your first month. 2 of you so far for the first month. And yes, like Shane says, hit that like button. Jesse says, today is a beautiful day. If it don't suck at times, it probably isn't worth it. True. And if it doesn't suck, how do we know the good times when there's no bad times? Defined Group, good morning, and thanks for being a very trusted mod and being in Tom's Army for 3+ months with the XRP Meteor. Says, morning, y'all. Hit that like on the way in. Be sure to check out PagerX. Tom just posted excellent info to set us up today. If you are not in the Telegram, you don't know what you're missing, and I'm glad you alluded to that. Yeah, I put in I've been adapting much better now after you set up my own section, and I'm allowed to do this now, and I'm really appreciative of this. So this morning I put, good morning, I hope everyone has a blessed weekend. And if you join Tom's Army or in Tom's Army, please make sure to join the Telegram. We've got 445 members. After 400 members, we had to make it to where you had to be in Tom's Army for at least a month to get in. And that's the membership on YouTube to show support, because we had a lot of people trying to scam our audience, a lot of people that weren't even part of the audience coming in and trying to emulate me and then trying to steal people's crypto. So we had to put protocols in place. But anyhow, good morning. I hope everyone has a blessed week. And to start this analysis, we must be aware of a drop below $2.89 for XRP, which would signal a move to fill a gap at $2.50. To invalidate this, we need first a movement above $3.06, which clearly we would need to get above $3 psychological point, but that's not the end game, as you've seen yesterday. And ultimately, a retaking of $3.28 before losing $2.89. Ethereum needs to retake $3,558, or a drop under $3,100 is likely. And for Bitcoin, if it fails to gain any bullish momentum, targets 110,000 minimum. This is a very tricky, dangerous market filled with manipulation. Until September rate cuts, it's best to make snipe-like entries and remain an observer until further evidence of a reversal is seen. And I believe that's true. So we're going to do more of a focus on XRP. I feel like we've gotten away from our XRP analysis and we started to look more around the entire market. But I want to get more honed in on XRP again. Start to find these definitive levels. I also want to hone in on Bitcoin. Show you why that drop to 110,000 is not just questionable, but likely when it sets up a formation like this. And with the presence of what looks like a bearish setup there, why we should go down to that uptrend at minimum, but why I'm not exactly sure that that's going to be the end of this, and the coup de grace is going to be a little bit lower in my opinion if this does start this next drop. So 110 would be the next target. After that, about, what is this right now? Ooh, that's still 106. That is crazy that it's right there. That 106 has just stood pat for so long as a drop point below 110. It's kind of crazy. What is this? What is this line? What did I just move? Hold on. I think that's just... Oh, that's the wedge. This is the rising wedge. Listen. Remember how initially we said the rising triangle, it should break out, but then if it breaks back in, we'll know that it was not a rising triangle and it's a rising wedge. If that's a rising wedge, oh boy. Oh boy. And we can have a more personal discussion today because we're shadow banned. And I'll be able to see more comments and read them all. But this is an, oh boy. Are you ready for 77,000 if that's a rising wedge? I don't know how many people who are watching crypto would be ready for that. Or even better, are you ready for a retest of that cup and handle that never got retested down at 60K? Because that's what this could literally turn into overnight. We could turn into something catastrophic. I think it would be rather insane, interesting, and holy smokes, what an opportunity all at the same time. But we need these next layers to break if that's the case. Remember where we closed last night around 113,300, and for Ethereum around 3480, for XRP right around where it's at right now. That's where we would look for the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, those gap areas on Monday morning. That's the area we would expect to be around. So I don't expect much fireworks here. Maybe we do get some kind of volatility in a weird fashion, but I think it's going to pull itself back into the same area. Mark Caston, good morning, along with 2 Ravens. Thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So badges. Thank you so much. Mark Caston, the number 2, and 2 Ravens, the number 3 top fans of this live. Oliver Marks, welcome in, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 6 months with the XRP Predictor. And thank you for being the top fan of this live. JNL, good morning. Top of the morning to you, my friend. Kawabunga, good morning. Ryan Eisenhower, welcome in, and good morning. Joseph Euler, welcome in. Good morning. And thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 6 months with the XP Predictor. Moza here, welcome in. And thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge. Kawabunga, the Fear and Greed Index is back to 51. I would like to see it lower than neutral, though. I would like to see it back into fear. Neutral is great, but usually at the neutral point, that's when you get lopped in with the not so beautiful entries. Because if this is the start of a rotation back down, like the topping, this is exactly what we would expect it to look like, is the problem. Mark Korf, welcome in. Aaron Wharton, good morning. Let's see. Mark Korf, thank you so much for the $9.99 donation. I was not expecting that this morning. Wow. Holy smokes. That is incredibly generous. I love the emote, too, that you shared with it. I love those ones when you guys do pay it forward and then you share the, like the animated ones, like the GIFs or whatever. I love that. I think it's, what do they call it on here? They call it the super sticker. I like those super stickers. I like the super chat, but I like the super sticker because it gives the cool animation. You're welcome, Mark, and thank you so much for the pay it forward mentality. Kawabunga, thanks for sharing. I really appreciate that. JBHK, thanks for being a very trusted mod and also sharing this on X because very, very badly shadow banned because of yesterday's content, which is fine. I could tell when my lives went out and yeah. And then they shut my content off in the middle of the live, so I had to restart. And then when I shared this, it didn't even show up to my tablet. It didn't show up to my other screen either. So I'm like, uh-oh. They're not happy this morning with me. But then again, some of it could be because I did the short as well to talk about, you know, the morning setup and then the live. And that's got 227 views in 22 minutes. So there is a potential that I could have crossed up the wires as well. But I like to blame YouTube because they sent me a lot of weird messages about warnings yesterday. I'm getting sick of taking their little stupid 20 question answers and 10 question things and these stupid, I call it re-education training that they keep making me do, but it's not going to help. I encourage you to join XRPFutureMillionaire.com. I'm getting very good at it. Very good at it. I just like to be a professional before I do anything. It's all set up the way I want, except I'm just trying to figure out the live stuff and do stuff on the fly. I would love to hire somebody from my audience. Be like, here's a couple $100 a month just to do maintenance on it. And to be able to update things the way I want. I would love to be able to do that and pay it forward with somebody in the audience. Like, here's the credentials to my website. You're in charge of the editing and all of this because I'm too stupid to do it, or I don't have enough time by doing all of this and having my special needs child and 2 of Julie's kids that I've been, you know, taking care of with her since, well, 11 years ago. One's going to college, though, so after the summer. But I would love to do that. Create abundance for the audience as you help me create abundance for all as well. That website, and I encourage you to go here, and we'll look through some of the XRP analysis through my website, XRPFutureMillionaire.com. It's free. I've dropped about $6,000 into it for 5 years of my the website paid for, 5 years of dedicated servers, live APIs on the price and everything else. It's got everything you could ever want on here, any chart you want. And it's just, it's a great benefit to have. So if you want to, we're going to look at XRP. We'll look at it from the sense of, and I did this for all of you. It's a 24/7, 365. There's no breaks on this website. It's all up to the minute. And I just had a vision that we would have a 24/7 chart of XRP, but then I decided to go a little bit deeper and have it to where you can have any chart at any time, anything you want. So what I would do, nah, this chart's not big enough. What the hell is the point of having that XRP chart when it barely shows the history? But you can go to any chart and any market in the world. We'll just go here. It's amazing people would leave when we're about to do this kind of analysis. But hey, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Whoops. But I hope everybody is having a good morning. Let me do the intro really quick. Good morning. 9:06 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Saturday, August 2nd, 2025. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I really appreciate seeing everybody this morning. Makes me really happy to see everybody who's still dedicated with crypto, even with the ups and downs. Remember, the volume's already on here automatically. I encourage you to put on the MACD, moving average convergence divergence, because we can see the flow. Even in the monthly, it still doesn't look bad. It's just to start the new month, you see a little bit of a red start here, right? Well, it's hard to see, but you're going to see a little bit of a red tick here. And that's what ends up happening when we don't push through these very volatile regions and we put in what looks like could be a little bit of a small short-term double top. And then I'd encourage you to put the RSI, Relative Strength Index, in the monthly as well. And we can see we went into overbought. And right now we're having a battle here. And it looks like we don't have enough strength as of yet. So we're going to come down to that trend line, which is at 65.34 right now. And that brings a little bit of volatility to the downside here. Even the positive volume went from green and it flipped back to the white neutral in the new monthly. That's not exactly the best sign because that's flipping back towards the uncertainty. Although it's pretty basic and even, it's flipped a little more red here, and that's not exactly what I want to see. I prefer it, to keep pushing, but it's way out the stratosphere right now. So, but the other thing I would say, and honestly, if you don't, I would put the stock RSI on as well. If you don't know, I would put the stock RSI. If you're the stochastic, if you're looking for a little deeper signal, and yeah, you can only do 3 unless you want to buy more. And I put the volume on there for a reason. But look, if you want to put the stock, put the stochastic RSI. That's a big signal too. And then the stochastic and the weeklies, they are all massively oversold. I mean, overbought. They were, and they dropped back down. But in the monthly, it's not as bad because it's a neutral. But if you go into the weekly, you can see we were overbought in the stochastic. And typically when you're overbought, that's when you want to sell. When you're oversold, that's when you want to buy. So like when we were oversold down here in the stochastic, the price action was all the way down here for the market cap was down at 97 billion. We went into overbought in the stochastic. And now all of a sudden you can see up here, we're all the way up at 218 billion and we went overbought. That's a very reliable thing to have on there too, the stochastic RSI. So the stochastic, the moving average convergence divergence, the relative strength index, these are all great things to have on here. So when you look at the stochastic, I mean, that's overbought. Now it's cross bearish. That's a weekly bearish cross. That is very bearish right now. That's a very bearish signal. So like everything is starting to point in that direction of short-term bearish. We were just out ahead of this call. That's the only thing is we were out ahead of it. That's it. And 2 weeks ago when I had my meltdown, in a sense, because I wanted everybody to pay attention and know I was serious, that's where we were out ahead of it. And it still had about 2 to 5 or maybe 7%. It had a burst up after a drop. Some had 10, 15%. But now they've completely given all that back and then another 20%. Remember, XRP moved up to 366 and now we're at 292 like 2 weeks later. That's a big drop. That's almost, 15, 17%. But on some of these, like, look at IOTA now. I keep pointing back to it. We targeted 1695 for the first area where I thought could be an opportunity. I said right away, I don't think I'm buying there at all. I think that's going to fall through more than likely. Because why would we come all the way there and not retest the area of strength down at 15 cents? And I'm not even convinced that's going to hold. I think we might be coming back down to the bottom of the pattern again. Especially if these fall through. And that's down at like 9, 10 cents. No, it's down at, oh my God, it is under 10 cents. I'm just telling you, if IOTA goes down this far this time, I will not walk out with less than 100,000 tokens, period. I'm going to own the fucking farm on certain ones of these, and I'm going to have a condensed bag. I have 42,000 that was unaffected on this drop. So, to be exact on BITUNIX, because I like to be up to date with my audience, it still sits at, it's at $42,444. To put it in perspective, if I had not liquidated my BITUNIX portfolio, you're talking about, on average, you know, on some of them you'd be 20%, some you'd be, I'd be down at least $8,000 is the point. So that 42 would be 34 right now. Do you see the, so if I wanted to pay myself, this is how I pay myself. If I decided to, I'm not paying myself anything because I don't want anything. I don't want fiat right now back in my pocket. But I'm paying myself dividends here by not being in this drop. You know, not being afraid to liquidate when I felt wrong. Not caring what everybody else said. And no, this doesn't count for XRP. I bought a second bag of XRP, $5,000 worth in 2024 when it dropped to 38 cents in front of all of you. That bag got sold plus $3. The other $10,000 or 10,000 tokens plus, I'm not selling that. I don't want to take the implication there. That's just going to sit, and if XRP has to dwindle its thumbs for 35 years, that's fine. But I've already paid myself a substantial amount through XRP. And I preach the same thing with everybody, just so we can do what we got to do over time. But this looks horrible. Unless this is a big W reversal and this doesn't break down. My fear for XRP is it's behind other ones right now. Like, look at IOTA. IOTA's already broke this fundamental shift, and it's telling us, like, hey, that's not a W. It broke down. This is where XRP's at when this was at 19. This has come down another almost 20%. So the tough part here, too, is so many are asking me now, Tom, do I liquidate? It's tough here to say yes, even though I'm not buying here and I'm staying liquid. It's tough for me to say, oh, yeah, just liquidate your whole portfolio after it's already dropped 20%. I would have preferred for you to do it when I was emulating the warning. But at the same time, sometimes it's just better from a emotional, from a mental, and from a just a anxiety standpoint to be on the sideline and then let it force you back in. My message 48 hours ago or 72 hours ago was, I'd rather be out and be wrong and buy back after a 5% push up in the market where it proves that it's not bearish than sit through a 20 or 30% drop just because I'm afraid of missing out. Because to give back on a $10,000 portfolio, you'd be down $2,000 or $3,000 right now just from 48 hours ago. You know, and we emulated it, and this is another reason to be in the Telegram. Now that I have the pager section, I was able on here even to come on and say, guys, I'm sorry on July 30th. I'm sorry, everyone, but I have to say this. I'm not asking for everyone's thoughts, just telling you straight up. Don't be surprised if your portfolios are 15% lighter in the days that come. Well, since July 30th, and we'll just look at XRP, and we can look across the board, but July 30th, I was trying to give everybody the ability to have that out. That's it, just to have an out. And why would I say it on the 30th? Because we had this big run up here, and it was our ability to get out. It was the last chance, and I said it on Tuesday, or Monday and Tuesday, and then on Thursday, I'm like, listen, like this is how it is. XRP is down 9%, but that's basically the one doing the best. You know, it was just, that was the last opportunity, in my opinion, where we got that hump here. We got the hump here, and then we consolidated, remember? And then it was just, it's what was going to happen. It rotated down. We had that reversal candle, and I was having a hard time reaching people. But like 15% is basically where we're at already. That was the warning shot. That, and the days that come, that's the early shot. The worst part about this is now you're down 15, and now you're looking to get out of the way, which might not be the worst idea in the world, but it's tough because you could already be sitting there saying, oh my God, I've saved 15% in 2 days. It's more than that, but just from when I put that out. And I said it the days before that too, but you're now 19.8% from that reversal candle. You know, and we talked about every reason why that monthly was not looking, it looked fine, but the way it was closing, that short term was going to overtake, at least in the micro. And that's what's happening right now. And if you thought it was bad on Friday with this escalation of stuff happening, I don't think we're going to get that big resound source. You know, some are hoping on this thinly traded weekend that it forces the price up. I'm worried that it drops it down because there's no volume. and it's easier to manipulate the prices. It only takes one wrong thing for everybody to go ape shit and just drop everything. I'm waiting for that to happen for when September rate cuts come. Everybody's going to be like, hey, there's a 70-80% chance of rate cuts happening in September. Let's buy it before the big pump. Hello, you can't buy it before the big pump, before the drop first. Like, who's buying the green candle still? Nobody. Nobody in this audience should be. And this is why when XRP went up to 366, some are asking me, hey, should I buy? If you didn't buy it at 290, why are you buying it at 306 yesterday? It dropped to 292 the day before. I told everybody, if you were in that drop, don't sell it then. Wait for the retest up, because just like when you go down or when you go up and you have to back test the move, when you drop, you have to back test the drop by going up. And that's what we did yesterday. We melted back up, got the rejection, and now we are finding ourselves in a very bearish scenario here. Even though we're hanging on to this support, it's because this is your last stand support. Once you break down these areas, Bitcoin's going to be close. It's already broke down its real support, but once you break down, like for XRP 289, that's when you start to drop into that next layer. And that drops you down about 39 cents to 250. That's a big gap area. But right now, I make it very clear. XRP is on the verge of dropping out of my self-proclaimed demand zone, which we've never been able to break out and hold. This was the first time we even got through that zone in its history. But we've, just like before, the sellers are strong. And Ripple, some of the main players, they've uploaded a lot of XRP to sell in this at this point. So I mean, they're not stupid enough not to take a little bit of profit, because when you 10x, you gotta look after yourself still. The amount of people that will ignore this information, it's scary. Scary. XRP Lemur, welcome in with Walter, Roop, Michael, and thank you, all three of you, for being in Tom's Army for your first month with the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens. Wow. And that is my face superimposed on there. Seeing all the new people in Tom's Army makes me so happy. Like, you have no idea. And make sure, if you're new in Tom's Army in your first month, go on to my YouTube. And if you want to join to get in the Telegram and to join deeper and to pay it forward, I've been doing this since March 24th of 2021. I have never missed a day. Never. Not once. So I've been part of my own army for 50 months, as long as you could be. Go into the post. Whoops. Go into the post. I'm going to delete this. I'm going to delete this. Go into the post and go down to the Telegram. It'll get you into the exclusive Telegram. It's very, very important to get there. I have my own little section you can watch. We got the community hub. So nice. JW, I'm glad you're watching too. I've been talking about starting up your own section for when we're live so everybody can talk to you. I've been talking to Defined about it. So that you can have your own section, because YouTube has shadow banned JW from commenting in our community for quite some time, but he stays around. He's very, very active. So it'd be nice. Oh, absolutely. There's FVGs that never get filled. We've got one at $1.50 on XRP. I know we filled the top end at $1.62, but not good enough for me for a full fill. We've got one at 91 cents that stayed on XRP that I was very vocal about before we broke out. It was 91 or 93. So yeah, we've got some, if you really want to talk, down at like 4 or 5 cents that nobody wants to talk about. So they don't always get filled, no. Majority, yes. 90% of the time, if not greater, 95 to 98% on statistical average, they'll get filled. But that still leaves, like I've said before, for every 100, there'll be 3 not filled. For every 1,000, you get the picture. So a lot of them, from a minute amount, no, they don't often get left open. But even if it's 1 out of 100, that makes 10 out of 1,000. That makes 100 out of 10,000. That makes 1,000 out of 100,000. That makes 10,000 out of 1,000,000. You see, so 10 million or 10,000 gaps left out of 1,000,000 different FVGs. Doesn't seem like a lot, but that's still 10,000 that are left out there. That's a lot. And there's FVGs left all the time. Top, bottom, in between. XR Perfection, thank you so much for being in Tom's Army for over, 3 years with the XRP Diamond Hands badge. That's incredible. Wow. Solo Jeffy, today 9 days after new moon has been local low. Tomorrow is the 58.9% date of year. Be interesting if we push tomorrow. It will be. That's why it's tough for me to tell somebody to just get rid of everything at this point. I think if you're out of the market, it's a good spot to observe to see if we are going to take that next step, or if we do get that signal that we're going to reverse back up and then we could re-enter. You know, I think it's a blessing to have been out of it for the last couple of days, because we can literally look at it from the real analysis and not have to be fearful of a drop or a rally, because we control our own fate. But right now for Bitcoin, the main key is here for Bitcoin. We're below this area, or at least trending on it. It's actually a little bit lower. Right about there. We're trending on this. Got to give it some grace, because if it's lower, you want to make sure you don't have it too high. Right now it's at 113.4, but it's got to get above that 113.6 approximately. That drop, along with the bearish setup, what it looks like, is targeting 110. And the fact we're on the bottom side of that, that's a bad sign. Because that's the bullish scenario on top of what looks like could be a rising wedge. If that's a rising wedge we fell back into, good, game over, good night. That's what we have to be afraid of. And when you have good night, sweetheart, if this is a rising wedge, and let's just say we fell out of it and we go all the way and then we just fall out of it. I mean, you're talking about a target down here under 80K. And then if we come down there, my Lord. So you'd have 110. And then if it just fell straight through, you'd have around 91 for that FVG. And then all of a sudden it opens the door to a 78K and then almost under 60K if it kept going. And then you would start to see a big topping reversal here if that was the case. And you'd say, oh my God, what is going on here? Well, our technical target in this bull run was 122,186. If we could have overtaken and made that rising wedge our bitch, we could have made it 143. But now if that doesn't play to 143, it's the opposite from 122 down. That's not very pretty. For any action that doesn't go up, you're going to have the counter reaction that goes down in the same lane. And if you're asking me, that very well might have been building something very catastrophic. So I'm not afraid to target tops, folks, when everybody else is still looking for expansion. I'm not afraid of it. This is how I did what I did in 21. I'm not afraid to locate a bottom even when people are looking for a lower bottom. That's what I did in 23. I'm not afraid to take the top when everybody else is trying to buy in or screaming that it's going much higher, like I did in 25. I'll continue to be the contrarian, but I'll continue to clean up. Because guess what? Nobody's ever gone broke from staying green. Nobody's ever made a bad decision when they don't have debt. They do make bad decisions, but it's a different bad decision, because when you feel the grind, like now, if you were in and you're feeling this every day, now you don't know what to do, but you see your money going down, your portfolio. The objective here when you're a trader is to buy the red so that you can see it go up. That's why I'm having a tough dilemma here. Do I buy now and try to ride this wave that we should get a small wave, or do we wait for it? And I'm choosing to stay pat right now and I'm choosing to just observe on a thinly traded weekend, because they have broken down, for all intents and purposes, these good bullish scenarios they had set up in the dailies. But there should be some kind of back test soon. So I'm not sure if it's going to come this weekend on a thinly traded weekend, or if it's just going to fall out. But yeah, there's a very real chance that, you know, we're on the cusp here of 15 to 20%. That's what's going to happen if it does fall out. You know, and we came up yesterday, and that rally was just obscenely bad. Like, the way it came up yesterday was just prototypical. Hey, we came down in a bearish section down to 289. We trap people in the U.S. when they wake up to, isn't it convenient how it goes right up to that 306 and gets rejected? The point of contention where we have to break over to start flipping this from a bearish narrative to a micro, you know, kind of a safe zone up to 328. But right when we hit that, we came down. And now what that does is that builds a bigger base. And if this double bottom fails, this base is bigger, and that's going to force us out of this section and right down to 250. That's what ends up happening here. So that bigger base that was presented to us yesterday that rebought in and then ended up sitting here now at 306 saying, my dear God, how are we back at 293 in 12 hours? or 16 hours. These are the same people that are going to allow it to fall through if they start to unload right now. Because top side liquidity makes for sweet bottom side pushes. It happens every time. Every single time. It gets the Johnny come latelys and they end up getting smoked. That's why I said trading right now is not the best idea. You got, whether you want to be in and out trading, you know, you can't keep buying the same rotation. If you get out, you can't just keep getting back in until it finally figures it out one way or the other. That's why the last day and a half I haven't been tempted. I'm just, hey, I'm out, I'm sitting, I'm watching, I'm waiting. Don't have to worry about XRP, XRP healthcare. They're just off on Oblivion land. But for the rest, you know, now it's made it to where I can own everything I want and then buy another 10,000 XLM if I buy back in. With just money, I've saved $8,000 as of right now. That could have been off the portfolio. So that's $8,000 right now that I can invest further than I did. With the same amount of money I had 2 days ago, it's just unaffected. But I would have lost $8,000 off of 42K. That's the truth. I'd be down to 34 right now. And some of you are dealing with similar money, and you know because you're seeing that reality in your portfolio. So that's how I make bigger wealth now. Is but now I have to decide. That's the thing. I don't know. This is the hardest part. These are the hardest parts. My gut tells me don't do anything and just watch because this looks like trash in the micro. Almost looks like a failed bump and run like I was saying the other day. You have the bump up, and they weren't big runs, but you had the bump, then you came back. You could even say the bump and run failed, or you can say the bump, and then we tried to run. But I would say the bump, consolidation, tried to run, failure. A failed bump and run, because it would have bumped, consolidated, and ran. The fact it failed formed the M-topping reversal. Still, people wanted to be oblivious up here at 333, and we said that's a perfect right shoulder. If this is an M-topping reversal, take the stairs up, take the elevator down. But then it becomes bigger implications when you come down here to reassess the pattern. So, I mean, this becomes a whole big mess when you break this at 283 especially. 289, yes, because it's a big, big support zone. But you could expand down to 283. Once that... all I'm saying is if you are hoping this market breaks up, you need it now to not rotate down. You need no more rotate down. The next rotate down is a real rotate down. Those are fast 20% drops. Because now you fall out of the pattern. See, right now we fell to support on these drops. But once you fall out of the pattern, it opens up the technical drop. And even on XLM... even if you want to look at the short technical drop, see we're down below the 200-day, which is not good. But that's a short drop. Look at that, 27.7 cents. Because they're resetting these patterns legitimately. You are legitimately resetting. And then right here, what's the chances it doesn't hold there and then it comes back here all the way? I don't know. But coming all the way back down here isn't going to give you a lot of satisfaction except the fact that it can fill these areas that it... These came up so fast, they never gapped down. That's been my concern since day one when they went up. And I said I hate saying I said, but this is the reality. A couple weeks ago, I said, don't worry about all these left open areas. We've got, at least for this push up, we can make some money. But then once we get to the top, I said, I'll start worrying again. And that's what I did. I started to worry when we started to round. And then I got obscene because I felt like I wasn't being heard. So I came on all sporadic one day. I don't know. We'll be able to figure out which live it was. Oh, no, I won't because it got taken down, as a matter of fact. Bunch of fucking bullshit. And we had the move that we set up before that a couple weeks ago, and that's how we set it up. But there was, after we made the push, oh, man, it sucks. I wish they wouldn't have took down that content. Too many people complained when I talked bearish and got emotional. Let's see. Mike, good morning. When everyone is bearish, I get ballish. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, indeed. Kawabunga says, I don't know why, but I say the intro out loud every morning subconsciously. Well, of course. XRP Future Millionaire. It's catchy. And then people like when I'm like, for my 60-second TA, they like, XRP Future Millionaire. Yada, yada, yada. And they like the way it flows with the XRP Daily Technical Analysis. I do too. See, and what you need to do is make believers of what you believe. And now I think I'm making believers of my audience. Oh, Shane, I'm going to have monster bag of IOTA. Monster bag of IOTA. And remember the other thing that we talked about? Remember what we were talking about with Jim Cramer when he came out and said, buy HBAR, buy Bitcoin, and buy Ethereum? I said, uh-oh. Well, he usually tells you to buy the right stuff, but right when it's about to have a big drop. And then later on, you might be right, but it might take a couple of years to reroute what he told you to buy. No, if he would have said these are good things to buy, but look at X, Y, and Z, why you should buy it at these zones, that would have been better. He's going to tell you sometimes in the right direction, just at the wrong time. So like he came out and said, buy HBAR 2 days ago. And I said, uh-oh. He says it on Thursday. Now you're saying, you son of a bitch, Jim, I'm down 16%. When it was very obvious that we had a very big topping reversal building. And the problem here is if this breaks the 200-day, now all of a sudden you're coming at least to here. And that's 30% from old Jim said it. At least to here, if we lose this. It would at least go to there. If not, if you're filling the entire gap, it's going to be down 41% from old Jim. So instead, I'm going to buy twice as many HBAR as I had. Not going to build the farm on it, but I'm going to buy at least 20,000. XDC, if it does what I hope it does, there's going to be a few 100,000 again. But I said XDC, we wrote it up here when the market was getting shit on. And I said it can't outdo the market. It's impossible. It's not in a place where it's just going to outperform the market. So up here I said, hey, once it loses that one area, and I gave you guys the out at 978, it's over. Or 97, whatever I said. And now I said you guys could ride it if you wanted to until 97, but then goodbye. And there was a reason I said that. Because that was the bullish zone. And now it fell out of there. Now it's only come down a couple percent. But if it catches up to the market, you can see what's going to happen. If that's a topping reversal, it's a problem. And the reason why I thought it was a problem is because it looks like it's set up in a rising wedge. When it came through here and did this, I mean, I could be wrong. I'm not the smartest man in the world. But I tend to understand analysis with technicals. To me, that looks not like a rising triangle. That looks like a rising wedge. That's on the verge of breaking out. Or breaking out to the downside. So breaking down. But that rising wedge is going to have extreme significance if it breaks down. And Bitcoin had it and it fell back in. A lot of these other ones had them. So I don't know. Do you consider that a rising triangle or a rising wedge that is in fact on the verge of breaking down? We can give it more grace and say it's still within, which I prefer to, like that. So it's on the verge. It hasn't broken down. So that's what you have to ask yourself. Are these rising wedges or rising triangles? If it's a rising wedge, it's a bearish breakdown. It's a bearish continuation. If it's a rising triangle, they're bullish continuations. I'm not convinced that this is a rising triangle. Hopefully it is, and then it just reverses, and then, you know. Rudy Poo, welcome in. Andrew, good morning. Make XRP great again, welcome in. You know, I also seen a meme. Somebody said, we buy XRP at 250, and then we blah, 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 wait, and then we turn into this. It's like, what? No, we bought XRP at 34 cents, and it turned into what you're already talking about 250 will turn into. If you're buying at 250 to get the gains we got from the percentage gains from 34 cents, you would need it to go to $25. I don't understand the philosophy. I think people just say whatever they have to make it fit their narrative when they miss out on something so much earlier. Like, are we crazy? XRP's not even hit $4. We're talking about a move to 25, and you just think it's guaranteed? But yeah, this weekend, what I'm going to tell you is that it's going to be an ultimate trap zone. It don't matter if you go short or long. I think the volatility is going to keep us somewhere in between. Mike says, Tom gets me all fired up and hot and bothered. Let's fucking go. We are all going to the moon. Yeah, in time we are. Just these micro transactions, these micro moments that we have to pay attention, because we need to see, especially if the signal flips back in our favor. It's just, even in the 4 hourly, we got that bearish engulfing right now. There's 2 hours and 24 minutes where we could turn this around and then push back up and try to retest here. We still are waiting for the looming death cross here in the 4 hourly. 3 hourly's already done. 2 hourly's been done and back tested. Oh no, I don't think. Oh yeah, it did back here, but it hasn't retested it here. But now it's fallen below that critical point. Like, this is a nightmare presenting itself if this continues. And it's a lot easier to find sellers than buyers in a market like this. Just remember that. It's a lot easier for somebody to sell a loss than it is for them to, you know, sell a gain. Most people will hold on to a gain as it's falling down and their profits are gleaming. But if they say that same amount of loss without the profit, they're much more willing to sell. That's why a couple days ago we just presented a case study basically and said, listen, from an analysis, if you buy it here, even if it just goes down 20%, rotates, it comes right back up, and you look like a smart person in a couple of weeks and it's above, the problem is, are you willing to sit through a 20%, 1/5 of your portfolio being lost without liquidating it? And 99% of people aren't going to be able to just sit through it and not sell. Once it hits that first 5 or 10%, they get the hell out of the way. It drops the next 10%, they're happy. But then they forget to look at the market, even if it comes back above where they had bought initially, to rebuy back in. Well, I'm not doing that. I already lost 10%. As to where if they weren't in it at all during that volatile moment, even if it went up on them, they could make it an irrational decision, less irrational, because they weren't afflicted with blood already in their portfolio. That's the hard part. To try to attack this from a point of emotionless, feelings as a human, if you're seeing a lot of red in your own, your money. I don't know anybody who, like, if you put your money in the bank and all of a sudden you went back to the bank and instead of there being 10 grand, there was 8 grand, just by volatility of interest rates going negative, you'd be like, well, I'm not keeping it in there. Are you out of your, why would I keep it in there? That's what happens when you invest too. Investing though, remember, investing is not usually on the green. You invest on red days. So that's why we're at a tricky point. We don't know if this red day is going to continue red, or if we're going to find some volatility to the upside. We really need that volatility to the upside if we don't want to drop another 15%. We've got about 4 cents on XRP all the way down to like 283 that could technically hold us. But once that area is lost, if you're out of the 280s, you might as well just sleep for about 30 cents minimum. Just like Bitcoin, if it don't get back above 113.7 at the minimum, you might as well just go to sleep until 110. Just like with Ethereum, if it's not over 3,558, you might as well go to sleep until like 32 or 3,100. If it ends up rejected. These are the spots we're going to find ourselves. But I'm going to end this in a minute because we have my son's birthday party today, his 6th birthday party. It's his birthday party, and I'm going to go to the farmer's market with Julie's mom. She just got here, and everybody's, I'm continuing to get ready. I got a lot to barbecue. But I'll be back here tonight as long as I have time after the party. I'll do another update, but I really wanted to just talk about this stuff here this morning. So I really appreciate everybody. We still managed to get over 100 people, which is crazy, even with the shadow ban. So I encourage you to make sure you go to Tom's Army on YouTube. Go to the membership section. Join Tom's Army for $9.99 a month. This content is all free, and it's a great way to pay it forward. I put all the money back into the community. I made the website for all of you and myself. It's got live APIs, dedicated servers, so that it's lightning quick. Price action is right on point. Everything changes every second of the day, 24/7, 365. And if you join Tom's Army, you get into the exclusive Telegram. There's 445 members. Special protocols in place just for the spammers and things like that. And we have 445 members. It's very nice. A lot of cool stuff going on here. I have a little section where I talk about stuff. You can watch that so that you don't get caught up with all the stuff being together. The content links so that you can see all my content when I post it, even if YouTube shadow bans me. We got the community hub where we talk. We've got group trading setups that we were talking about, but not as much right now because there isn't really any group trading setups when it's, the market is the way it is. So it's just been basically little dry in here in this section because there's no trade setup right now. But yeah, other than that, there's so much stuff to look at, so many things. The technical lounge with Nick, he does such a great job. and so many more things. The Declaration of Prosperity. Make sure you read this, and all so on and so forth. I don't know why. Let's see, but yeah, read that Declaration of Independence or Declaration of, you know, that's just if you're coming in here and you're trying to see what's going on. The Declaration of Prosperity by Defined. That's like our Declaration of Independence here, I suppose, or our Constitution. But there's just so much stuff to look at, so many people to talk to, and so many different ways to kind of stay on the same track. Scotty Trades, welcome, and love seeing that you're in here too. Tanya May, welcome in, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 2 years. The XP 589 Moon Badge says, have a fantastic birthday party. We will for Little T. We will. I hope this sunk in. I hope this sunk in. I really hope this sunk in. Because I continue to see things just bleed and bleed